to Dignity Crossing Far. This is an event where we have Elke, Falat and Julia Tieke. Yes, I got that right. Who will be presenting their project, and their project is based on sound recordings that they have of prisoners of war from World War I, and these were predominantly prisoners from this particular region, South Asia. They'll tell you more about the project themselves and the work that they're doing, but along with them, there is Giles Aubrey, who is a sound artist and who's been working with them as well. I'm quite horrible at this, but anyway.
We have mics. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is a kind of improvised evening. I hope it will still make sense to you. We're going to present our project Digging Deep, Crossing Far. And as you can see, Karachi is the second encounter. We started last year in Bangalore and Kochi, and we'll continue also, but Elke will come to that later. Now, why is it not moving? So this is where it all started. This is a postcard which I came across in an article in a weekly newspaper. And it's a postcard from 1915. This is the first mosque that was ever built in Germany. And this mosque was built inside the prisoner of war camp south of Berlin in 1915. And I was very surprised when I read about this. I didn't know that the first mosque was built in a prisoner of war camp. And in the same text, I read about the jihad program that the Germans designed in the First World War together with their Ottoman allies. And the aim of the jihad program was to call the Muslims worldwide, actually, to jihad against the British and the French and also the Russians, and to fight with the Germans and the Ottomans. And so this jihad program was designed in the Foreign Office, and one bit of the jihad program was designed for the prisoner of war camp. So in this camp, specifically prisoners from non-European places, especially South Asia and North Africa, were kept. And the jihad program tried to call those prisoners of war to jihad inside the camp. And as part of this, a mosque was built so they could practice their religion. And same for the Sikhs and Hindus, there were like small religious sites as well. But the focus was on Muslim prisoners of war. So, and then they would print in thousands these postcards, also to send out the message saying, we treat our Muslim prisoners of war well, we give them a mosque to pray. And so these postcards, there are similar ones, were also part of the propaganda that was propagating friendship between Germany and Islam, basically. And alongside with the mosque, there came a picture of different Muslims, one could say. So they also gave traditional dresses for the people. So I read this article quite exactly 2 years back, and my main profession is radio drama editor and radio documentary maker. And I decided this is so interesting, I want to do a half-hour program on this topic. So I did a long research, and part of this was going to the place where the mosque used to be. It's a small village south of Berlin that had always been a military place. And nowadays the camp there is nothing, or actually this year they opened a refugee camp on the very spot. But you find the street called Moscheestraße, Mosque Street, and it's actually the only Moscheestraße in Germany. So this is like the only hint that there used to be this mosque in the place. Yes. This is another picture where you can see part of the camp, and you can also see, like in many pictures you would, that actually the mosque is relatively small. Most people would pray outside. There wasn't enough space inside, which underlines also that it was really a propaganda object more than a serious attempt to host all Muslims. This is another part of the propaganda inside the camp. The Foreign Office, or a part of it actually, they published newspapers for the camps called Hindustan, and in some languages called directly Al Jihad in Arabic, for example. They came in Arabic, in Farsi, Urdu, a few other languages, and here you also see the word jihad. So this was also part of the propaganda, calling people to join the fight, which not many followed. And actually the Ottoman, the Sultan of in Constantinople, he issued a fatwa, which was published in these papers. So this is already, I'm going quickly through this. I mean, later we can also do questions and answers, of course. Actually, this is wrong order. Sorry. So it's, I don't know why it got, the order got messed up. I will do it one by one. Sorry. So we have had the Urdu, there we go. Okay, I'm sorry. Huh? Aber warum ist es so klein? Okay, so from the Urdu language propaganda newspaper in Germany, I now jump to here. We did a research before we came this year. We came last year to do a research, and so I'm trying now to connect Karachi a bit, or the region, to Berlin. This is one finding where people here were called to give war loans to the British in order to finance the war. I'm sorry, I have to do it one by one, I guess. And we were trying to find documents that are related to Karachi. Why is this not working? I'm sorry. Huh? Okay. So when we were here, we went to the Sindh archive and came across this document, which also shows how people in the region were mobilized. In this case, the Karachi War League called people to give a forecast of the war position on 31st December 1917, and they would offer a price of 1,000 rupees for the most precise forecast. This was a rather interesting find. I don't know why. Kannst du das machen, Nick? Oh, here. Okay. Here. I don't know if you can read it, but you were asked to give the exact position on the western, northern, eastern, southern front and the countries, and they would very precisely give points according to what you forecast, and one could win 1,000 rupees. Gehen hier einfach weiter. So Karachi was, of course, it was not the main place where the soldiers were recruited in South Asia. It was Punjab mostly, but Karachi was, of course, the place where many soldiers would go through the harbor to Europe and Mesopotamia. So this is a picture of the harbor in the First World War. And and this is well, half of the map of Pakistan. This is from the exhibition, which is running at the Arts Council at the moment. And here is marked where prisoners of war who were, well, here are marked prisoners of war from the region, from nowadays Pakistan. And actually this is a map of prisoners of war who were recorded in the camps. It was mentioned before that we have brought these very old audio recordings that were done in the camp. And on this map you can see the dots where we have recordings from. So the recording situation you can see here. Why were they recorded anyway? So the jihad program didn't really work out so well. Not many soldiers were willing to change sides and to fight again. They finished, they ended the program pretty soon because it was also expensive, and they opened the camps more and more for researchers, and all kinds of different research was done inside of these POW camps. And one group that was interested were music ethnologists and linguists, and there was a guy, Wilhelm Dögen, who you can see holding the hand on the shoulder of a prisoner of war. He was a linguist who wanted to create a museum of languages, and he wanted actually to collect all the languages and dialects of the world. So he founded the Phonographic Commission, and he asked for permission to record in different camps. Actually, there were different ethnic camps, but this camp, also called the Half Moon Camp, was the most exotic one. You had the most faraway and most diverse languages. So he founded a commission and gathered some experts on South Asian languages, and then they would record the different languages of the prisoners of war. And here you see this person standing in front of a kind of funnel in order to be recorded. And I have another one. And together with the recordings, of which we're going to hear more also later from Gilles, there came these written files where you have the name of the person, in this case Faijaz Ali from close to Rawalpindi, and you have the title of the recording, the date, and a few remarks on which language the person speaks and whether he was able to write or not. So this archive is still there in Berlin, and during my research 2 years ago I found this archive, and all of the recordings have been digitized, and it's a quite special archive of 100-year-old recordings in these languages and under these circumstances. And this research about the historic part led to me asking Elke, who is the curator, if she wouldn't also like to make a project out of this and bring the topic to the countries where the prisoners of war came from, basically, to bring the whole history that is very little told in Germany also about this first mosque and the non-European soldiers fighting during the First World War, to take this topic, to expose it to contemporary artists in the countries where they came from, and to start a project. And this is how Digging Deep, Crossing Far really came to life. Nowadays, so what is left in Germany of the camp is like the most striking place is the war cemetery. So all the white stones are for Indian soldiers who died in the camp. So this is in the forest close to Berlin. And when we were here last year, we visited the Karachi War Cemetery, which looks very much the same, with this stone, "Their name liveth forevermore." And it's the Commonwealth War Grave Commission that takes care of these cemeteries. But I don't want to, for this historical introduction, I don't want to end with the cemetery, but with Fazildat Khan. We have his picture because one of the officers, commanders in the camp, Otto Stiel, he was an amateur photographer, and he would take a lot of portrait pictures from prisoners. And in this case, we have a recording and a photograph, which is very rare. So this is Fazildat, and actually, I would like to play we have one recording from him singing.
मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूलल्लाह, मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूलल्लाह, मुझे आपने दीवानों में मिला दो या रसूलल्लाह, मुझे आपने दीवानों में मिला दो या रसूलल्लाह, मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूलल्लाह। लगा तकिया गुनाहों का पड़ा दिल रैन सोता हूँ, लगा तकिया गुनाहों का पड़ा दिल रैन सोता हूँ, मुझे इस ख्वाब गफलत से जगा दो या रसूलल्लाह, मुझे इस ख्वाब गफलत से जगा दो या रसूलल्लाह, मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूलल्लाह। खुदा मुझको मदीना में ले जावे भी तो बेहतर है, खुदा मुझको मदीना में ले जावे भी तो बेहतर है, के रोज़ा जाके मैं देखूं तुम्हारा या रसूलल्लाह, के रोज़ा जाके मैं देखूं तुम्हारा या रसूलल्लाह, मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूलल्लाह। अजब किस्मत हमारी ये कि मैं उम्मत तुम्हारी हूँ, अजब किस्मत हमारी ये कि मैं उम्मत तुम्हारी हूँ, भरोसा दीन दुनिया में तुम्हारा या रसूलल्लाह, भरोसा दीन दुनिया में तुम्हारा या रसूलल्लाह, मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूल। अंधेरी कब्र में मुझको अकेला छोड़ जाएंगे अंधेरी कब्र में मुझको अकेला छोड़ जाएंगे तेरे ओ फजल से होगा उजाला या रसूल अल्लाह तेरे ओ फजल से होगा उजाला या रसूल अल्लाह मोहब्बत गैर से मेरी छुड़ा दो या रसूल जमाना और फजल दाद इसको बची नबी रैफले
You're applauding to the singing, to his performance? Yeah. And it's also, yeah, I'm just curious because it's a religious song, yeah. And I mean, the sound quality is so good still, I think, after 100 years. And yeah, I also think it's special because I was trying to show how we connect and how places connect, and to listen to this here, it was recorded from where we are from, so I think it's very special to have this recording. So much for like the start maybe, or the historical reference of the project. I think Elke will continue if there's not a very urgent question at this point.
Yes, so actually this was the background or the starting point, as Julia said, and the idea was now because this issue is already quite well researched by researchers in Berlin. So, but it's, as Julia said already, it's a kind of untold story, and I didn't know it, and I also was kind of surprised to hear it, especially in the year of the centenary of the World War I, which took place in 2014. And before I started working on this project, I was not so specific interested in World War I because it was so long time ago, and it was always overshadowed by other wars or events and horrible things which took place. And but I also recognized that actually the whole focus was, at least in Germany from my side, what I recognized was Western Front. It was really focused on this Western Front, France, and this whole, the other part of the big picture were somehow missing. And so I was really happy when Julia came up with this really striking setup in this prisoner of war camps, that we said, okay, let's do something, but how to put it, because the issue and this archive at itself is already, it's work. What can you add, or what can we do else now with art, with contemporary art, because this is our deep belief in that art is wirkmächtig, it's can do something. And yeah, so we started researching on finding artists in India. We got an invitation to the Bangalore Literature Festival in 2015 in December, which also focused on the World War I. And we were embedded in this festival, and we got the opportunity to go there and to prepare something. And yeah, and we got, I was just thinking to show, ich zeig die Bilder dann hinterher. Nö, musst du nicht, mach ich noch später. And we got 4 artistic positions, 3 from India, and Chilobri from Berlin, actually from Switzerland, was also contributing with his work. And we were really happy that we got afterwards the opportunity to come to Karachi, or while we were in India we got the invite to go to Karachi and to Lahore also to visit places and also try to find artists who are somehow interested in this issue, because for us it was not at all clear, because for us it was really fascinating, because it's really putting the current discussion about this jihad and everything upside down, and it's such a hot topic you don't want to touch, and you don't want to burn your hands in making a jihad exhibition. So I think that would not work, and so we are happy that through this distance of time you could get a more more subtle approach to it and look at it. And so we came to Karachi, and we were really happy that we had so much positive response that we could do now this show, which is on right now until Saturday at the Arts Council. And you are all invited to come, especially on Saturday between 6 and 8. We have this closing event with another program, and so you should come and see. The show will continue in Berlin in September, and so we will bring the artworks which we brought from India to Pakistan. We will bring now the artists from India and Pakistan to Berlin, and we'll add also some more positions, and hopefully we will return to Pakistan or India with another more artworks. But I think to get more clear about what we did, I give you some examples. Können wir das jetzt groß machen? So, ne? Nee. Das war falsch. Nochmal. For example, this is a work by Aisha Abraham. We started in Bangalore with her work. She's from Bangalore, and she had a very personal approach to this issue of World War I, because when we went to Bangalore, it was like everybody told us, World War I was not really taking place here. It was all about in Punjab. And so we were happy that Aisha come up with a really personal story, because her grandfather served the British Army in Mesopotamia, and she started from her family story by using his material. And so what we see is like she used these photos he made, and in the big one you see on the left side a cross, and that's him marking himself sitting amongst the British. So it was all about this whole construction of identity within the British Army, because he changed his name, for example, into a Christian name to benefit from better treatment, from better food, and climbed somehow the social ladder. So these kind of stories were in the exhibition. Ja, zurück. Das zurück. Das ist das nächste. So, then here in Pakistan, Muzammil Rahil joined the project with 2 big paintings on canvas, and his approach is also more emotionally, because he was referring to the soldiers as, and there's a situation in Europe, and being completely detached from the families and experiencing the cold and the different culture. And it's also a letter between him and his wife. And the wife, because there are now published a lot of books also containing these letters from the soldiers. And since in this work by Muzammil, the wife is an illiterate, and she had to find someone to write an answer to her husband at at the front, and this is now the artist taking up this position, and he writes on the white canvas an answer, but actually there is no answer to this letter, and it's also unclear. It left unclear if this letter will ever reach this her husband, and it's all about this unclear and open situation or untold stories, let's say. So he really related to this. Okay. Another detail from a work you could see in the show here is by Ayaz Jokyo. He's from Lahore, artist from Lahore. And when we asked him to do something about, we came to his studio and we were telling him all these historical background, and he was really interested, but then he said, no, actually I don't want to relate at all to it, because he's more interested in the overall idea of war, or what does it mean psychologically, and what does it mean to be in a war, and not relate, and it can be any war. And he transformed it. He said the transformation we facing now is more to find in sports. And what he did were he made these power cuts, laser cuts, showing like a baseball player or cricket player or someone riding a horse or football player. And it has this size, or it's like original size, and he overlaid it, or he printed photos from the First World War on it. And he said these sports now is so comparable, and he brought as an example like the match between India and Pakistan in cricket. And he said that's really kind of transformed war situation, and we said, okay, that's we like, and we want to have it in. So another example, or maybe this is the work by Gilles Aubry. We have sitting amongst us, and maybe you want to tell straight away something about your work and your approach, or later? Okay, good. Okay, and this, you see two works. The one on the left side is by Sanat Banerjee, and straight on this shelf we have a more detailed one. No, here. You see the work by also the artist from Bangalore, Sureka. And while Aisha had a really personal approach, she had a local approach. She went to the military archives in Bangalore. She had somehow access to it. Is a different story how she got access to these archives, which are very well maintained and contains enormous collection of photos from this time and from this region. And she took a lot of reproductions, so she were allowed to take a lot of reproductions, and she reproduced them on aluminium. So it gets not this style of a documentary or like a museum or whatever. But the steel, the idea of steel and metal, which you have also in the war, is reflecting in this choice of material. And it also gets this kind of really uncanny situation or ghost-like situation of these soldiers. And she also, this is again Gilles, and we have more pictures actually of, yeah. No. Das ist der Ordner, die da. Okay, nochmal runter. Runter, runter, runter. Ja. Huh? Okay. There's some technical problems. Es sind nur 3. Waren aber noch mehr drauf. Egal. Anyhow, maybe just to finish the approach of Sureka, she also found out the number of people who were recruited from this Mysore area or Madras suburbs. It were also over 100,000 people from this area. I think the overall number Julia mentioned already were 1.3 million from South Asia. And she also got into this issue that Bangalore developed a weapon at this time, the Bangalore Torpedo, which is to remain this barbed wire. And the First World War was also the first war which was really in these trenches and these fenced. And so in Bangalore it was an early beginning of this weapon industry. And she made also a video about it, which you can see also in the show. Now from Pakistan as well, the contribution by the Tentative Collective, and they related more again to this archival situation and this image you saw in the beginning, the black and white image with the recording situation, and they constructed by this typewriting paperwork the situation before and after. So it's like the negative situation of the photo we saw. And they will also continue their work and their research in Berlin. Yeah, Jamil Film. A work which was not commissioned for this show, which already existed before, was also by the artist from Lahore, Jamil Baluch. And Julia and I did a studio visit, and we were both really touched. It's one simple idea, but for us it's like a conclusion of what was all this jihad about, and this turning up a situation upside down. And it's only 1.5 minutes. It's very short, and so seconds. So we can show it to you now.
Without sound.
It's without sound.
Hier hat es eine wesentlich bessere Qualität.
Ja, das ist scheiße. Sanat, noch kurz was zu Sanat sagen, noch vergessen. Und dann schief. Okay. Too much. Ja. Und Gilles kann noch was erzählen.
So, but we would like to invite you also to, because it's on every day from 3 to 8, including Saturday, and Saturday at 6 we have a closing event, so it feels also a bit funny to talk about the exhibition here, which is actually taking place at the Arts Council, so I hope you go and look at it there. And we also, it's kind of already almost looking back, we opened last Sunday, and we had a few workshops, talks, film screenings also at the Arts Council, and Gilles Aubry, who contributed to the exhibition, also did 2 listening workshops or 2 workshops on these recordings, and he will briefly talk about his work and the workshops now.
Yeah, thanks, Julia and Elke. Hello, everybody. I'll try to be short and just as an introduction to my work, which is present in the exhibition, I choose to first focus on the fact that these recordings at the time were made by scientists. So because they were scientists, they were, of course, coming up with some specific ideas about how to approach voices and these prisoners. So I mean, the idea was, I guess, to record voices in order to sort of measure them in a similar way that scientists at the time, especially in Germany, actually were having this idea of measuring body parts, possibly in order to support their theories about racial differences. So voice was, and of course differences, but also hierarchies, of course. And voice was also a possible part of the body to be measured. So for that it had to be recorded, but not just whatever. It needed to be recorded in a very precise setting, and then measured. And amongst these quite simple means at the disposal of the scientists at the time were tools like the tuning fork and so-called reference tones, which in fact were played at the end of each recordings in order to make sure that the playback speed was correct once the recording was made. So this is something I've chosen to focus in my work. I don't think I'm gonna explain you in detail what I've been doing in this installation. You have the chance to go and experience it by yourself. Of course, obviously you'll recognize some printing documents at the back, which are the forms that correspond to the recording, which can be heard on the turntable. And there are some images. I mean, this slide also come from the archive and show that still additional techniques were used in order to visualize how speech was to be analyzed scientifically. What, of course, I would like in this situation is to play to you a few more of these recordings, and that we can engage into a discussion of how to listen to such documents today, interpret them in various ways, and decide together what should be done with them, if we should just forget about them, or if something positive can come out of this experience. Within the so-called Pakistani part of the collection, there are about 30 recordings in different languages, and I don't know if there are people amongst you who understand Pashto or Baluchi language. Please tell me, because we have also a few things in those languages. Otherwise, of course, I'll stick to the Hindustani recordings. So I propose to start. I mean, amongst the recorded materials are basically either songs, which the prisoners were asked to sing for these recordings, or some sort of fairy tales that they would know. Sometimes more personal accounts, biographic elements related to their condition. But of course, this was not the primary sort of interest of the scientists. They just needed spoken material to be further then analyzed. and also some word lists or alphabet that were recorded in order to be then compared amongst the various dialects. So I can start, for example, with one of these alphabet, just to show how formal these whole recordings. The frame of the record of this recording experiment was.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alif, B, B, T, 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 Jim, J, He, He, Dal, Dal, Zal, Re, Re, Ze, Ye, Sin, Shin, Swat, Zwat, Zoya, Zoya, Ein, Rein, Pe, Kaf, Kyaf, Gaf, Lam, Mim, Nun, Va.
Well, that's an example. There are also sample word lists where they were asking to say words in their respective languages, like the day of the week or the member of the family, things like that. Now I'm going to play you one recording called The Crow and the Parrot. It's spoken by Muhammad Hussein. And you let me know if you understand this here.
एक कौवा तोते के यहाँ गया, तोते ने दोस्ती के तरीका पर साथ लेकर हर एक बाग का सैर कराया और तरह तरह के मेवे वगैरह चीजें खिलाई। बहुत दिन के बाद कौवे ने कहा, ए दोस्त, अगर कि हमारे यहाँ चलोगे तो मैं भी ऐसा ही सैर कराऊंगा। एक दिन तोते ने इस बात को आमीन किया कि मैं चलूंगा। जबकि वो दोनों दोस्त वहाँ से रवाना हुए तो और कौवे के मुल्क में पहुँचे तो कौवे ने दरख्त के नीचे तोते को बैठाया कि जिस वक्त तोते ने उस दरख्त के फल को खाने के लिए चोंच मारी तब उस दरख्त का दूध तोते की आंख में पड़ गया। जब तोता बेचारा मारे दर्द के वहाँ पर फिरता रहा, उसी जहरीले दूध से तोते के पर भी गिर गए। बहुत मुश्किल हुई उसके लिए, जबकि वो आंख से अंधा और परों से नाचार था। इतने में कोई मार चलाने वाले लड़के उसी जगह पर आए और तोते को पाया। एक दूसरे ने कहा कि ये अक का चूहा है और उसको पकड़ लिया। इतने में कोई अमीर आदमी वहाँ पर आ गया। उस अमीर ने तोते को लायक काम के जानकर खरीद लिया। जबकि घर में गया, उसकी आंख पर और परों पर इलाज किया। थोड़े अरसा में तोता दुरुस्त हो गया और बातचीत सीख गया। एक दिन एक मुसाफिर उसी जगह में आकर बैठा और तोते के मालिक ने उससे पूछा कि कहाँ जाओगे। मुसाफिर ने जवाब दिया कि लाहौर को। तोते ने कहा, ऐ मुसाफिर, मेहरबानी से हमारा पैगाम भी ले जाना। और उसने कहा, बतलाइए। तोते ने कहा, जब काला बाग के पास जाओगे तो वहाँ तोतों का उड़ार नजर आएगा और बैठा होगा। उन सबको मेरा सलाम देना और कहना, ए प्यारे हुब्बुल वतनों और वतन नवाजो, तकदीर से मैं तो कैद हो गया, मगर प्यारो आप तो आज़ाद हो। फिर किस लिए मेरे साथ मुलाकात नहीं करते हो? क्योंकि मैं पिंजरे में बंद हूँ। अगरचे आप उड़ते उड़ते मेरे सिर से गुजर जाओगे तो मैं मुलाकात हाथ से नहीं मगर आँख से कर लूँगा। ऐसा बेदर्द नहीं होना चाहिए। मुसाफिर ने कहा, ए परिंदे, मैं तुम्हारा दर्दमंद पैगाम ले जाऊंगा, मगर किसी ने सुना तो सुना भी दूंगा। अलकिस्सा, जबकि वही मुसाफिर काला बाग में पहुंचा तब एक तोतों का गिरोह उड़ते देखा। उसने एक रुमाल की निशानी उनको इशारे के लिए बतलाई कि ए मखलूक अल्लाह, मैं पैगाम के लाए हुए फर्ज को पूरा करना चाहता हूँ। अगर कोई उसके सिर पर के ऊपर थोड़ा ऊंचा चकब ना लिया और के सब लाए हुए पैगाम सब तोतों ने खूब सुने और वो सब उड़ गए, मगर एक वहीं रहा। आखिर वो एक जमीन पर गिर पड़ा और बाजू हिलाकर मर गया। मुसाफिर अपने काम को चला गया, जबकि वो उस जगह पर वापस आया जहाँ से पैगाम ले गया था। तोते ने पूछा, ए जवान, तूने बोला था, जबकि वो मैं कैदी के पैगाम को पहुंचाया है कि मैं, उसने कहा हाँ पहुंचाया था, मगर अफसोस है कि सुना तो साहब ने, मगर एक मर गया था। तोते ने पूछा कि मरते वक्त उसने कुछ कहा था? मुसाफिर ने बोला तो कुछ नहीं, मगर बाजू बहुत बार जमीन पर मारे थे। सुनते ही ये तोता भी मर गया। मालिक ने मुसाफिर को पकड़ लिया कि कीमत दे दो, और तोते को बाहर निकाल कर फेंक दिया। इतने में तोता उड़कर दरख्त पर जा बैठा। मालिक ने मुसाफिर को छोड़ा, मगर तोते से पूछा कि सच बयान कीजिए, तुम्हारे मरने और भागने का क्या नतीजा है? तोते ने कहा जो काला बाग में मरा है वो मेरा भाई था, जो उसने बाजू लाए थे नसीहत की थी कि ऐसा करो। मैंने वैसा ही किया और रिहाई पाई, इस्लाम दिया, चला गया। MD खत्म।
Okay, so you got an ID. You also heard at the end this so-called reference tone, which again was used to adjust the playback speed. Be glad to hear you. I mean, your reactions. Maybe just to start a little bit, also the debate, or the sort of frame of reflections. I'd like to play you one short Pashto song, which is also part of the collection, and after that, an excerpt of the sort of response that I got from someone here who understands Pashto and how he sort of choose to interpret some of these recordings, and then maybe we can open the discussion. So here's a short excerpt. There are several of these Pashto songs, and so through connections here through the German Cultural Institute, we managed to find someone who was ready to spend time listening to them. And of course, one of the important aspects is to provide a translation. So far, there was no translation for these particular songs. For other of the recordings, there are historical translations made in the camps at the time. But for those songs, there were nothing. And so I gave him the recordings on a USB stick, and he spent obviously the whole night translating these songs, but also together with his brother and his father and a poet that they knew in Peshawar. So it's also interesting to see what can happen when such recordings emerge in the life of someone who actually is interested and want to try to dive into it somehow. So about this, it's this comes from it's a non-edited sort of encounter with this person. So he had prepared almost like a little speech with it. So there is an introduction to it. I'm gonna maybe can you put it a bit louder, because I think listening them with people do presentation to me then.
I can hold it.
No, I prefer.
Calligraphy, rough, rigid, and warriors. Pushtun are content with discord, alarms, with blood, but never with contentment with the master. With the content with the master. Winston Churchill defined Pushtun as always engaged in private or public war. Every man is a warrior. Every man is a politician. Every man is a theologian. Every family cultivates its vendetta. Every clan its feud. Nothing is forever forgotten, and very few debts are left unpaid. Famous Pushtun poet Ghani Khan defines them as Pushtun violent nature, strong body, and tender heart makes a very understandable combination. Combination for living, but an ideal one for love, poetry, and color. He is kind and gentle. but hates to show it. He further defined them. He loves his new wife. Sorry. He loves his new rifle, but his old wife. Now coming to the genre of the song, it is known as Tapa. Tapa in Pashto, it represents Pashtun culture. It reflects norms, tradition, and society. Tapa is the shortest comprehensive of a folk poetry. Pashto language is profound and proud of it because of this genre is rare to be found in world literature. Any language, especially oriented languages. However, the Mahiyan Punjabi language is similar to Tapa. Most importantly, this song can be sung by anyone, child, woman, or elders, on any occasion, be it marriage ceremony or grave. That was introduction. Now I'll go for the first one.
Do you have a...
It's the plea of a farmer to have Tieke asking
It's so nice. It's a pity to cut it.
Now in this song, the singer, he's far away from his beloved one, far, far away, and he cry for his beloved and say that I do not need any jewels, or I do not need any lands, or I do not need any position, or I do not need anything. I want you, my beloved. I want you to be with me. I want to go with you in my lands. I want to be with you to live my life.
I leave it here. Of course, he's going well, translating several of the songs. It would be interesting to discuss that too. I mean, for me, it's confusing a little bit because I don't know, of course, this cultural background attached to these songs, and that's where it becomes interesting to actually engage in a discussion. At the same time, I had the impression that sometimes he was sort of maybe instrumentalizing this recording also for his own sort of interest, which I of course don't know very in detail, but I guess in this context was more to sort of maybe start a bit of propaganda for the Pashto people. So again, I could not be aware completely of everything what is at play in such situation, but something happened, and that's what is probably important. Should we now maybe open the round for reactions and questions? And
hi. I was interested in the audio portion of the presentation more than everything else because these are real recordings of his history, prisoners of war. These archives, they all happen to be preserved in Germany. How does one access these archives? Are they available to members of the public? We're not in Germany, you see, so I'm wondering, is it...
You can research the recordings online, and then you can fill in, like you can get in touch with them via email. You fill in a form saying you don't just copy and distribute them, and then you can get these recordings. And I think the site should also be in English by now. We put it... There's a site here, selected sources, and then you can research the sound recordings on these websites. So the first one is the one we have been talking about. The other archive is more complicated, but the first one, ending with search, there you can look for them. It's not... you need to put a search word for language or place or something, and then you will get results, and then you can ask them to send them to you. You can also,
maybe to complement what Julia is saying, these records are not accessible directly. That's the true answer to it.
They're digitized.
No, they're digitized, but they are the property of the Humboldt University in Berlin, and that's a problem, of course, because one would think, okay, they are digitized, so it would be easy to circulate them, but such recordings have copyright and have a material value, and it's, I mean, of course, there is a sort of procedure that allows pretty much anyone, really, and that's true, that you can contact the archive and they will send you copies, and you have to sign this document that you will not pass it over because they, for example, they are, I guess, legitimately afraid that people would publish them commercially and make money with that. So that's something which is pretty strict, legally defined. But of course, it can be also seen as a ethical problem, you know. And so these things are exactly the things which are discussed nowadays, not only for these recordings, but generally for ethnographic artifacts and immaterial data that come from colonial countries. So, of course, that's interesting also to discuss that here. What should be done with these recordings, and which institution, for example, could host them here, and how a sort of broader access could be maybe achieved through that. But that sounds easy to do, and in the practice it's a bit complicated. But still, I think it's good to discuss it.
Yeah, this was a wonderful presentation. You keep referring to these people as prisoners of war. So, but were they not recruits? I mean, which front were they fighting with? Which front were they fighting with Germans? Were they fighting against Germans?
They were fighting against Germans and were captured in France mostly. Okay. So they were fighting with the British. They were all British recruits.
Okay.
Recruited.
So what was that bit about the Fatwa?
The Fatwa?
Yeah, because the Ottomans were fighting with the Germans, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the Fatwa was issued. It was the idea of the German Max von Oppenheim. He used to be a diplomat. Then he set up this jihad program for the Foreign Office, and he suggested that to call the Muslims for jihad, and he or the Kaiser, the German Kaiser, addressed the Ottoman ally and asked them to issue this fatwa, because, I mean, it was already a lot to say, fight with us, the Germans, like the Christians, but of course you couldn't issue a fatwa from a German Christian Kaiser, so that's how it came into being.
Hello. I just wanted to ask one thing, that when it was happening over there, the First World War, in subcontinent, of all those people, Mahatma Gandhi supported the Khilafat movement, which was that the British or the Allies should respect the Ottoman Khilafat, and they should not end it. So could you please caliphate, or the Ottoman Muslim empire, or this, the spiritual thing? So could you comment something on that? What happened? Because certain things were, even in the history of subcontinent, there's a big debate that why Gandhi, of all those people, the pacifists and all, supported war in a way that, or had some role in that thing. So the same thing which was happening over there, that German were trying to motivate these people to kind of form a jihad, or turn them against the Britishers. But over here, Gandhi was also kind of, I don't know if I made myself.
The question here is, there was a movement that was pretty similar to this movement of the Germans trying to recruit Muslims. And that movement stemmed from people trying to preserve the Ottoman Empire after the end of the war. So could you comment about what maybe in the places where these prisoners of war were, what were the sentiments there regarding the ending of the Ottoman Empire?
Well, what I know, I'm not a historian, but I think I know for the Arabic prisoners of war that like the idea to fight for the Ottoman Empire was absurd because they were looking for independence. So like the call to jihad with the idea of a pan-Islamic movement was really very much rejected because people were looking for independence, and actually the Ottoman Empire was already on the decline, so you wouldn't join this movement. So but I don't know how it was for South Asia exactly. I come more from the Arabic side of which is also involved in our project. Like I've been a lot to that region, so the history of the subcontinent I'm not as firm.
One more question in addition to this. We've talked about all of these prisoners. What happened to them at the end of the war? Did they come back? Did they stay back there?
Where there's I guess a few stayed. There's not much known about them. Some 260 died and are still there, south of Berlin, on the cemetery, and most of them obviously returned, but it's not clarified for every case. But we had a talk on Monday with Dr. Hafiz Jamali, and he was talking about the Beluchi recordings specifically, and they are all from one prisoner of war, Shahdad Khan, and he researched on Shahdad Khan and found out that he did in fact return to his village. So sometimes it's also difficult because many of them were not from the middle or upper class, so there's not many documents, and also obviously the British told them, or some of them, they shouldn't give their real name in case they were captured. So there's a lot of confusion, like you don't even know if it really was their name or not, and so of many we don't know, but most of them will have returned.
I guess we would like to end here. Thank you very much for being a part of today's talk, and thank you all. And I hope all of us, all the people present here, can go take a look at this exhibit at the
and you can also listen to all the recordings from nowadays Pakistan in the exhibition on MP3 players. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.